Hi, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of the Enablement Brew. I'm Carly Lehner.
And I'm Melvina Alsaik, and we're so excited you're joining us. And I'm so excited for today's episode.
We have so many guests today. It's super, super exciting. So we'll talk about what the theme is in a second, but I want all of our guests to introduce themselves. And of course, you guys, we have to talk about what is in our mugs as well. So when you introduce yourself, share what you're drinking. Um, Stephanie, we'll go with you first.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Stephanie Middaugh. I'm the Director of Enablement here at Workramp. I don't know, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm also the co-founder of the Enablement Squad. And I'm drinking some tea this morning because it's still like a little bit early for me. So just getting my caffeine set for the day.
Yes, that usually works for us as well. Yes, I'm drinking tea as well, everyone. It's birthday cake tea, even though it's not my birthday. I was trying to think what could be fun in the afternoon, and this is what I decided on. All right, Jesse.
Hi, everyone. Great to meet you all. Jesse Potter here. I'm Director of Enablement at Docusign, and I am drinking some coffee-flavored protein shake here this morning. So, yes.
I think
Great to
that
meet you all.
counts. Malvina, does that count?
It does. It does.
Coffee flavored.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's good. I'm going to disappoint today because I have a water bottle with cold water where I dropped a tea bag and it's been brewing, cold brewing all day. So that is my beverage today. You see? Tea bag right there. Yeah.
Okay, it counts.
Yeah.
Iced tea,
Probably a
fine.
healthy choice. Good
Yeah,
call.
yeah. All right, Adriana.
Hi, everybody. I'm Adriana Romero, Senior Manager for Enablement Innovation at Salesforce, and I am on my second cup of coffee. So I don't know if that counts. It's 11 a.m. in Toronto, and it's a very chilly fall day. So it counts for let's bring on the hot beverages for sure.
Yes, absolutely. Why not? And
Pumpkin
then last but
latte
not least,
fans?
sorry,
Any
Malvina.
pumpkin spiced latte fans?
That was the I am, and I have to say, yesterday I went to the office and we have a barista that makes very good ones. So I basically said, it's my only day in the office this week. I'm gonna allow myself to have two. Why not?
Two.
Treat
Whoa.
yourself. That's what
Treat
you gotta
yourself. It
treat
was with
yourself.
almond milk,
Oh.
so I felt the
Yeah.
balance there.
A
So
little healthy.
And
Yes.
cream?
no, I have no, just the pumpkin spice syrup is enough. So
Oh,
that's
good.
it. Yes.
All right, last but not least, we have Laura.
Hello, everyone. My name is Laura Wheeler. I am the head of Rev Ops and Enablement at Spekit, so hence the pink. And today in my so matching mug, I just have some coffee. So I don't want to tell you what cup I'm on. So I feel like we're in the safe zone, but I mean, is 4 too many? I don't know. We'll see.
No, that's like
No.
There's never too many
Still love
coffee,
it.
too much coffee. Come on,
Yeah, it's
Laura,
just one
never.
pot, so that's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's one.
I always go with
yeah.
it's a small cup or it's a big cup. Like,
it's watered down. There's more water. This one has more milk. Like,
Yeah,
stuff.
we'll go with that.
All right, everyone. So we have all of these special guests here joining us today for our special Halloween episode, hence our amazing backgrounds. And this is a topic that Malvina and I have been waiting to do since the beginning of the podcast, and that is enablement horror stories. Ooh, we should put in some music into this section. Like, we all in enablement, everyone listening, if you've ever worked with someone in enablement, they have horror stories. We have horror stories. And we felt like this was going to be a great episode to bring on some guests and some friends and just commiserate with each other on some of the crazy things we have encountered in our careers in enablement. So I guess I'll get started with one of mine. This is like, oh my God, it just like every time I was thinking about it this morning, I was like, God, that was so terrible. So at one point, my boss at the time said, I think we need to do a boot camp for everyone for all of our sellers. We need to do a boot camp. Everyone's like, oh my God. And we have about 100 sellers at this point. Boot camp. I'm like, great. What topics are we thinking here? Like, what's the reason for the boot camp? I don't know. I just think we need to spend 4 days doing a boot camp. I'm like, okay. And when do you want this boot camp to happen? In 4 weeks. Okay. 4 days of content, all virtual, with no reason for the boot camp itself. Needless to say,
I don't see the problem. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
You
like
got
that was
4
the one you
weeks?
like.
Come on.
I was like, well, what's the problem that we have to solve? And there wasn't one. So I'm like, you want me to put together 4 days worth of content for like no problem that we have? And I mean, I got him down to say, okay, we can do 4 half days. It's like, let's not take the entire sales team off of the floor for a week. And then it was like, I built in a bunch of fun things and it turned out to be okay. But it was like that initial moment of panic of like, I have to build a boot camp for literally no reason. And I was getting feedback from sellers and they're like, there's literally no reason for this. And I didn't have much time to yeah.
There is never
Of course
a reason.
they don't think.
Never a reason, right?
So that was one of my horror stories, was the amount of stress I had to endure for like the couple weeks trying to get to the bottom of like, what does he and the CEO want us to do? Was kind of ridiculous, to be honest.
My favorite is that they're usually just like, you could just pull that together real quick though, right? Like it's not, you got like 4
Exactly.
weeks, you can do it with no problem. It's fine.
Yeah.
Also, I love the whole thing of, I have an idea. Let's do a boot camp. Isn't that a great idea? Like, just throwing it at you.
Right.
It's like Inigo Montoya from Princess Bride. Like you keep saying that word, but I don't know that you know what that word means. I don't think you know what
That's
boot camp
exactly it. Oh my gosh.
I love
Yeah.
a good leader with some good ideas that they have no idea how they're going to execute them or whatever, but you know.
I saw a really funny TikTok, you guys. There's like this trend, at least over in the UK with TikTok, where it's a sound where it's like they're like saying goodbye to people leaving the office and like, bye, thanks, you were a great help today, as like in a condescending way. And like and the caption was, the founder just changed the entire company strategy over a podcast episode he listened to. And everyone's like, bye, you were a great help today. And then he leaves and everyone's like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? So that kind of reminds me of that. Gotta love TikTok. So yeah, that's my horror story. Who wants to go next with theirs?
I have a very relatable one, Carly.
Okay, let's hear it.
It's funny because it was not one of the ones that was in the repertoire, but as you were talking, I was like, this one just popped. So you're going to feel very similar, and maybe the chills through your spine are going to be there again. So we were into like the first maybe 3 months of COVID, and I had to do this recertification process from a first certification process that people needed to learn a financial term. You know, I was working in a company that sold financial products, and, you know, they wanted people to be very versed financially. And I'm like, well, we have good salespeople, but they're not financial advisors. Like they didn't go to school for finance. So I think
the term revenue.
It's like, yeah, it's like we just need them. Like, I don't need them to be knowledgeable in finance. But then there was like a little bit of a disagreement between what the co-CEO of the company wanted and what we thought we should do. So I remember she called me and she said, look, if it would be for me, I would put everybody in a room and lock them for 3 hours and nobody can come out until they answer every question perfectly. And I'm like, I remember I was standing like right here and I was with the phone and I'm like, I cannot believe what I'm listening to right now. And I said, I have to say that I disagree with you. And this was a person that was not used to being disagreed with. She said, why? Like, because I do not think that we hired these people to be financial, experts. We hired these people to sell. And if we have an issue or they run into an objection they cannot handle, we need to find another way. So, it's safe to say why I'm not in that company anymore. Because I said I cannot be with a person who thinks that enablement is torturing somebody in a room until, no food, no bathroom breaks, and no water until you answer these questions. Like, this is not the Middle Ages. That's what
I was on a call this is like the other day, like just like last week. And some sales leaders, like, if they don't not it, to be named nameless, but if they don't pass our boot camp certification, they're getting fired. And I was like, what?
Oh my God.
Like, I just don't. I was started to laugh, and then they were serious, and so I just didn't know that people still thought that way. Since then, that enablement person has left the company, and she's in a wonderful new company. But like, wow, I did not think that still existed. So
like that awkward laugh.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah. I mean,
oh no, you're serious.
Wouldn't we all love to be that effective? Yeah.
Laughing.
It's like a cage match or something. Like, what is happening? Like, 5 reps enter and 1 leaves. Like, what is happening?
It's real life, The Apprentice,
Seriously.
Yeah.
Makes me feel like the standardized testing. I'm like, no. If they don't know, then we coach them, and we coach them until they know. They were not paid to do this, but yeah, it's scary to see that there's people out there that feel that way.
Man,
absolutely.
I can go next. One of my kind of like veering off of that kind of like certification topic. So I was working at a small startup at the time, and I remember I left and went home for the day, and all of the leadership usually stayed late hours of the night, and I'm like, that's not my jam, so I'm gonna go home. Came back the next morning, my boss pulled me into his office, and he's like, hey, great news. We added a Salesforce stage last night, so we're just gonna have to like go and tell the reps. And I was like, wait, like you mean like criteria for a stage, right? Like you added like criteria for an existing. No. We added like a stage. Like we just like went in and added. And I was like, you what? What just happened? He's like, yeah, just
admin permissions. Who gave them
that? Yeah. What were you on
It
that you
goes
like decided
away.
to just on a whim like add a Salesforce stage overnight? I was like, I left at 5 p.m. last night. I'm back at like 7:30. What happened? Between like 12 hours, we added a Salesforce stage.
Wow.
Just go ahead, Stephanie. Just like let the reps know. And I was like, okay, but what about like what happens to all the existing opportunities that were like in between those stages? Like what stage do they go? I don't know. Well, what are the entry exit criteria? I don't know. Like you can figure it out. Don't worry. Like just by the end of the day, like get the team together and let them know. Okay, like let's talk about our sales strategy here for a second.
Oh, I think we heard this.
It's brutal, Stephanie.
I feel like we're all going to have like PTSD after this because that's a little too real for me.
Better or worse after this?
It's like, what are these people drinking after I leave?
I just, in a matter of 12 hours, just decided to upend the entire process. It's all good. Yeah.
Yeah, like what Laura said.
Episode.
Gotta close down the permissions in Salesforce.
Shut it down.
Like,
yes.
Well, it was the Salesforce admin was like there with them, and
the
leader was like, I think it's a great idea if we add this stage. He's like, okay, done.
Yeah. Hey, can you just add this real quick?
Yeah. We've had product features roll out like that. Like one day we just realized like some engineer deployed something to the product. Like, cool. Great. Yeah.
I think in the enablement space that happens so often. Like, yes, we obviously try to be part of as many conversations as possible, but people will get together, they will come up with an idea, they will say it's a brilliant idea, and the next thing you know, that idea is like there, and you're trying to say like, hold on, like we need to contain this, we need to put some guardrails around it. And everyone is going off, just creating great ideas that give us heart palpitations.
Yes, and they think they're amazing and brilliant.
Yeah, and we're blamed because we're not flexible enough. Like, why can you just work with us and not be a roadblock? It's like, well, like I could.
Or, Stephanie, the best part, when things go south and they say, oh, that was Enablement's fault because they were not
Mm.
ready and they
Yep.
didn't like do the proper enablement to the team.
Yes. Yes.
Like, yeah, a 24-hour notice really gives me a lot of time to put together my best work for this.
Yeah,
Thank you
yeah, 'cause
so
you're not
much,
doing anything
everyone.
else, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're just on standby.
It's
Just
like
on
it's like
standby.
it's like when they say when things go wrong, enablement is to blame. When things go right, nobody thinks about enablement. So it's like it's a very lose-lose situation.
Ugh.
Yep. Yep. It is. All right, who wants to go next?
I can
Jesse,
go
I
next.
see.
Yeah, I have one. Yeah, and it's very spooky term for all of us, but it was COVID related. So this was March of 2020,
Oh
and
God.
we were getting ready for global sales kickoff, and that
Oh
was
no.
everybody from sales and customer success flies to San Francisco, big event, downtown, like the event of the year, right? Enablement Super Bowl. And this year we were launching HighSpot, brand new tool implementation. We're all super excited. We'd had this crazy stressful January and February, like building it all out, getting it all ready. And we were launching HighSpot at kickoff, big main stage presentation. We made t-shirts. I mean, we had the whole thing. And then afterwards, I was going to go on a road show to all of our main offices and do like live in-person training, because that's what we did. We have really nice offices with training rooms and all of that. And the Friday before the Tuesday of the event, we were seeing all the news. We're making all the things. We make the right call to basically cancel it, make it virtual on Friday before Tuesday, where the event was happening. We actually had people in the air from Australia who had to then land and turn around and go home.
Oh my God.
Oh, that
Which
is
is
so
just
funny.
like,
Could you
I feel so
imagine?
Can you imagine? Exactly. And then
Years later, there's
yeah, exactly.
from your kickoff.
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, everybody cancels their trips. We've got the whole setup in like the Hilton in San Francisco that we then turn into virtual, so they're talking to an empty room. And then it was like, well, we still have to launch this tool, so that it becomes this whole strategy of how do we go from a live like in-person road show with like handing out t-shirts and prizes to like jump onto some Zoom webinars, which all of us were super excited about, going to be virtual and work from home and jump on Zoom webinars for a couple hours. So yeah, it was not ideal. It did work out. We figured it out, but I just, yeah, it was a real timing, just one of those things. Like, how would you ever anticipate something like that, And then of course we all thought, well, this is a couple weeks and then we'll be back. And then actually,
Yeah.
and then actually I'll add this here, which is, not enablement related, but then like a couple of months later, I'm actually, I get to go back into our office because I was moving out of town. So I went to clean out the office. So I'm driving through downtown Seattle, which is like a ghost town anyways. It felt like a zombie movie, like I Am Legend or something. Everything's boarded up and nobody's downtown. And I go into the office and there's like notebooks are left open with pens uncapped and like coffee mugs full, because everybody's like, we'll be back in a couple days, no big deal. There's rotten food, dying plants. It's like a zombie movie going into the office in like May of 2020 at that point. So yeah, fun times. Thanks, COVID.
The Walking Dead.
I think we all kind of like forgot that we lived through that, and suddenly you hear like your story, Jesse, and I'm like, oh my God, we did do that. Like, where
Yeah.
did that happen? It feels like foreign, and suddenly you bring it up, and you're like, whoa, you have this jolt of we did live through it.
I remember I was trying to like book a happy hour for some of the people like in office, and it was like, oh, we'll book it for like the end of April. Like by the end of April, we'll be good. And then I like moved it to like the end of May, and I was like, we'll be fine. End of May, then we'll be good. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and cancel this because I don't think this is gonna end anytime soon. Just delete instead of reschedule.
You've
Did
still
any
got a
of you-
reservation at that place now
Yeah,
too.
I think they're still calling
Right.
Stephanie like, hey, remember your happy hour from like 2 years ago? So
Yeah.
Did any of you have to like quickly pivot to train on like
Yes.
how to be virtual and just like a
Oh,
whole
yeah.
like everything was set aside? That was a whole conundrum too.
It was a whole thing. I
Because-
worked at a company
yeah.
that was 100% in person and had
Mhm.
no virtual nothing. And I had people that were not savvy with Zoom or any of the tools. So
Yeah.
to your
Same.
point, Laura, I had to spend, I remember it was that Friday. I think it was that Tuesday and Wednesday. It was spent on how to train people on how to use Zoom and share
Yeah.
and use the tools
While we're
remotely.
learning too.
I
Like,
remember that I knew how to use them and
Mhm.
in my team as well, but it was like training people to like how do you share here, how do you share your screen? I had people that were not very technical savvy. But the interesting point was I was I was 7 days into a new hire class
Ooh.
by the time we went out of the office that Friday. So we had everything set up, and I was like, I think the most important thing besides training all these people that are not technically savvy is how do I get these people who are in onboarding ready for continuing onboarding
Yeah.
that was all ready to be like live and turning and pivoting all that for like when they were going to start to hit the phones.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
was great. It was great.
Can you
Oh,
imagine going full time back to the office now?
No.
You can.
No.
no.
I'm still
Hard
recovering
pass.
from going yesterday. Like I'm so tired. I'm like, it's like an hour commute for me to get to the office. And then you get there and you socialize and you
wow.
see people and you come back and you're like, oh my God, I'm so tired.
Oh, and awkward. Like I got super awkward. So
Yeah.
yeah, in person I'm still working back to it.
Just like sitting at like the table. I'm like, just no, don't come next to me. It's fine. It's fine.
Also, the whole thing that you're in a shared workspace and people are having conversations around you and you're like,
Weird.
I'm in a call. Like,
Super
why are you
weird.
behind me? Like, what's happening here, right? It's like, what are you doing here? You're like, yes, go away.
Oh my gosh.
But do you notice how many people will go and find an empty conference room just to do a meeting?
Yeah.
Where prior to COVID, that would have never been a thing. Like you wouldn't even think about finding a conference room to do that particular call. But now I see people, walking around like in a WeWork space, praying that there is an empty, conference room.
Yeah.
It's so strange. I find myself doing it, and I'm like, I never used to do that. But when I'm at home, I mean, I talk, quite loudly. I'll have my tea, my coffee, and then suddenly you have people
Ants.
looking at you, and it feels really weird.
Yeah.
Yep.
I used to do like webinar trainings from my cubicle, right? Like to like global audiences. I would sit there and do like a big onboarding training or a new product training from my cubicle with like people around and all of that. And I like decorated the back wall of my cube and everything to look good. And I was like, yeah, now I would never imagine being on the floor around other people, like having them listen to me yammer on.
We want
Oh.
professional lighting, a green screen.
It's like I
Yes,
have my light
background.
here, my other light here, the professional kind of podcast microphone, all the setup. Yes.
Mhm.
I mean, the
Amazing.
whole thing, I don't know if it happens to any of you, but the whole notion of what do you wear to go into the office? Let's start with that, right? And then like you get there and it's like, how's the dynamic? It's like, how do I eat lunch? And I don't know, it happened to me yesterday. The office was full. And then we went downstairs to get food and the food court was packed like it was pre-COVID and nothing had happened. I'm like, where did all these people come from?
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
It was like
yeah.
Toronto was like nothing happened. We're out and there's like the Blue Jays were playing yesterday and there was like a concert and downtown was like buzzing. I'm like, I need to get back home.
There's too many people. All right, let's hear Laura's horror story.
Oh, you guys.
Oh, is it a good one?
I like bucketed.
It's gonna be a good one.
I bucketed a lot of mine into logistical nightmares. If we're like categorizing them, and a lot were pre-COVID. Several instances, and I can remember one in particular. like, do you guys remember fighting over like large conference rooms? You know, you
Ugh.
like had to book like
Yeah.
months in advance. It was like you had to sign away your like firstborn if there's like conflicting stuff. It's just
And
a
then the
nightmare.
EA of the CEO took it over and you were
Oh
doomed.
yeah, because there's some town hall that's like last minute planned. So anyway, I have this like 100-person training in person, just extravaganza ready, like speakers get to the room and it's occupied. And I had not booked the room or someone had removed it. And I'm like, my heart is sinking. It was such a nightmare. Now, guess how many people were in that 100-person room?
2.
2.
10.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Get
So
them
10.
out. Get them
Guys, I
out.
was like, get out. But like just I was like white in the face. You know, I need to get in there, test the, you know, tech and get set up and put the stuff on the tables. Anyway, you know, it's not never a good impression when you're also the enablement PM, potentially the deliverer and, you know, everything else, as a like an all-in-one enabler. So tons of logistical nightmares. I've had a paid speaker basically day of demand full payment when there was like nothing in the contract about that, and they were like threatening to back out. So then I have to go internally and try and negotiate like the bureaucratic nature of finance while I'm trying to prepare for this enablement session. Oh man, that was a nightmare. And then also, I forgot my laptop one time when I was traveling, and that was just not ideal.
Oh,
No.
no.
Oh, that's a
You
bad
know,
one.
you like get
That's a
there and you're
bad
like,
one.
why is my bag so light? And because I didn't have my laptop. So luckily they shipped it next day, but still like, and we could VPN. But man, I tell you what, I don't know if y'all have had logistical nightmares, but oh, I'm just like, my heart's palpitating even thinking about it, because there's so much that goes into it and so
So
many
much.
points of failure, which I
So
think
many.
actually now virtually some of these things have, you know, fixed themselves, but still.
Yeah.
I feel like you could do an entire episode on like sales kickoff, like
Oh,
horror
yes.
stories, logistical horror stories. I remember one year we did a sales revenue kickoff or something, and I had been bugging our CEO for like, hey, you got like your talk track, you got your slides ready. Yeah, everything's great. We get to like the day of, and it's his session, time to go up on stage, and he like pops up with like a bar stool and like his phone. And he's like, I took some notes
Oh.
last night, and I was like, what's happening? What is going on right now? And he's like, so I'm just gonna like go through my notes really quick. And I was like, you don't have any slides? You don't like, we talked about this.
Oh my God.
And I'm just like on the side, just like this. Yeah, guys, this is fine. This is great. It's not a problem.
Jeez.
Speaking of those, I love it when people say that they're prepared. And I got, you know, speaking of those logistical nightmares, I got to the point of send me what you're going to present because
Yep.
of that.
Yep.
So in the same note of somebody not having slides, this was my first, when I started in enablement, I started as onboarding program manager. And it was my first onboarding week. We had like a one immersive week, and then we had like a 90-day program. And it was my first one. I was new to enablement. I was like my second month in. It snowed that first day in April, which it shouldn't. Let's start with that. And there was one presenter who was an amazing person, but I told him, are you ready? He was going to do like a presentation on partners. And he said, yes, I have this great slide deck. That's awesome. And he started to present. When he was on slide like 45,
Oh
said,
no.
how much longer is this? The slide deck was 96 slides long, and he presented all 96 slides.
Oh.
After that, I had to tell people that if they had more than 10 slides, they were not going on. And if they didn't have slides, even better, because people were sleeping. And I had people from Australia that were sleeping.
It should be a feature. Like you can not create more than 10 slides. Like it should be a feature in the platform. Like you guys, that was a great idea.
It's horrible. I'm like, are you kidding me? And this was such smart person. So it's the contrary, Stephanie, to your story of not having slides.
I'm
this
trying to
person-
figure out which is worse. Like, what would be
the 96 slides is
I
definitely
think it might be the
worse.
96 slides. Yeah.
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 This was exactly my horror story, which was organizing trainings or programs that you've put so much time and effort, but there is, of course, that thing that you just aren't the expert in, right? So then what do? You call the subject matter expert, potentially it's someone from product. And I remember, a particular training we were doing, and that is literally what happened. Someone from product came on, and like we went from like buzz and energy to this is the product and this is how it operates, and things are going to change and and it went on for about 25 minutes. And to your point, I look around and I can see people going,
Oh.
Yep.
well, then you feel so bad because you don't know what to do. Like, do you tell them just stop? No one's listening anymore. Right? Or do you, say, guys, like, pay attention? And you're stuck in this awkward situation where you don't necessarily know what to do. I think a lesson learned for me from all those experiences is when you're bringing in a subject matter expert, when you're bringing someone who maybe isn't in like a people-facing role all the time, just like run through their section beforehand.
Yep.
The way that they convey ideas is completely different to how I would maybe, convey an idea or
100%.
Or even like certify those people. Like anybody who's going to get up in front of a big crowd like that, they got to go through some training themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We do that. We do like a facilitator like certification for onboarding because we rely on so many other people. And so we've basically said like you have to go through like a certification by Enablement in order to like lead this on your own, because it can be an absolute disaster otherwise.
100%, yes. And also, like, if I would see people that were like to your point, Malvina, of being very smart and very knowledgeable, but doesn't matter how much training you gave them, they were not going to be good in front of people. I would put them to co-present with somebody from Enablement to kind of balance it off and have the enabler kind of guide the facilitation and kind of that person do the subject matter expertise. And what I ended up doing was kind of move that entire week to like workshop style. So I remember having a conversation with a product manager who said, and I quote, "If my people cannot bring their PowerPoints, then we're not joining your week." And I'm like, great, then they will not learn your product.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
That's it. And I'm like,
We
bye.
must use our PowerPoints.
Yep.
I will die if I don't have slides.
We need a deck. No.
Another enablement show, yeah.
Unbelievable.
God.
Matt, but that's so true though. Like, how do you bail out of a bad training this happened? Like, there's really no good way to do that, right? Without just saying like, we all agree, right? Like, this is not going well, which you never want to do. So yeah.
Because then I feel like
in here.
Yeah,
yeah, I feel like I have to come in with like the jazz hands, like, okay, everybody, now look over
Look over
here.
here, look over here.
Ice cream for everybody now.
Yeah, who wants candy? Who
And
wants
it's
to
funny
answer a
because if you
question?
come in and you say, you know what, Sally, we have like 5 minutes. Goes, no, I have so much more I want to say. And you're like, no.
Can we do wrap up music like the Oscars maybe? Is that like a thing
That
that
would
you
be
could start
so
doing with
good.
facilitators?
Exactly.
Get a little buzzer. Time's up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like America's Got Talent, like reps can like, hit an
Yeah.
X.
The X's.
No,
Yeah.
you're done.
You're
Oh,
out.
you
You're
should.
booted
Yeah.
off the island.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
but also
God.
speaking of facilitators, let's turn it to the people who actually come to the training. If anybody
Oh.
has a horror story of people who have come to the training and made it a horror? Laura, you seem like you have a good one.
Or not come to the training because the manager will schedule something over it. I'm like, what?
Mm.
How did this happen? Yeah.
I had one where we had like, this was a decade ago, we had printed out workbooks that we would use, and they're like, all right, write down like your discovery questions, all that kind of stuff. And so, but we went from our New York office to our Connecticut office like halfway through training. And so I had one of the new hires be like, I spilled coffee all over my workbook. I need a new one. And it's like a 50-page workbook. I'm like, okay, I'll print you a new one. I was like in the Connecticut office, had them help me. And then I get back to New York the next week, And our mailroom guys in New York were like, hey, we found this person's workbook. And she didn't spill coffee on it. She just left it in New York and didn't want to like tell the truth about it. So I sent her a message. I was like, hey, I actually found your notebook here in New York. Like, do you want me to send it to you so you have your day one notes? And she's like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy. Like,
Oh my
sure.
God.
I spilled coffee on myself this morning. I was like, it's a miracle. There's no coffee spills on it, right? And she's just like kept playing it. I'm like, you gotta just say like, no, I actually left it. I'm sorry. Yeah, come clean at this point, right? So
you should have
when
sent her like a tumbler. So she like just I know you're spilling your coffee a lot. So like here's something keep
with
it
a lid.
Cup. Yeah. Here's your sippy cup because you're spilling your coffee. Or how about the people that were not supposed to come to training and suddenly they show up on day one and they say, I'm here for the training. I'm like, I don't have you in the list. Well, I'm here for training.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think that happened a lot when we were doing training like in rooms and conference rooms in the office. I feel like now very rarely someone will pop into your Zoom.
Right? But sometimes they do. And then you don't want to say like, are you supposed to be here? Because then it's awkward and you have to slack them on the side or something. I don't know. That does get awkward.
Well, how did you get this Zoom link?
That's this. When the training finishes, what I do is I don't end the meeting right away. I wait to see who lingers and doesn't actually leave.
Ooh, that's a great idea.
You weren't paying attention. You probably, joined, went to make yourself a cup of coffee because
and
then
you don't know that
this
ended.
on my screen for 10 minutes and I'm just like
You're just like waiting there. You're like, I'm just gonna stand. I'm just gonna stay here.
Yeah.
Look.
Oh man,
I love it. That's so good, Malvina. I love that one.
Oh my God. All right. I think that's a wrap for our Halloween stories. I feel like we can go on and on and on about this, so we might do another one.
We might need a part 2, part 3.
Yeah. Part 2 with some other stuff in the cup, please.
Yeah, exactly. Some hard alcohol. But thank you guys so much for joining us as some of our first enablement practitioner guests on our podcast. Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. And for those of you who tuned in, I hope you guys got a good few laughs from our enablement horror stories. I'm sure you have them as well. So comment below if you're on LinkedIn and YouTube with some of your stories. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Tune in next time to another episode of the Enablement Brew and have a good Halloween. Happy Halloween to everyone.
Happy Halloween.
Fun, thanks.
Bye.
Bye.